Hello. Earlier this year, Dick and I were testing out Litchi, which is an alternative way of controlling DJI drones rather than using the DJI Go application. Important feature of Litchi is that you can program a mission, press a button, upload it to the drone, and the drone will then autonomously carry out that mission. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of what we did in January.
I had defined this mission in Google Earth and imported it into Litchi Hub, and what we've got here is a valley along here and a hill along here. You can see it more clearly here. We are about starting the mission here, flying up from 50 meters ground level to 110 meters, up the hill, along the hill and back down. And I thought I'd done it fairly accurately, and so when Dick came to visit, we decided to run this mission, me with my Phantom 4 going first and he with his Mavic going second, and we hoped that the Mavic would show what the Phantom 4 was doing. So I'm going to show you what actually happened. So we took off and started the mission, starting the Mavic a few seconds behind the Phantom. Unfortunately the gimbal is pointing downwards at this point, but I correct this later. The mission speed is about 9.4 meters a second, and I was okay until about this point when I thought, well, it's really quite low here. And then it looked to me it was getting really close to the grass, and the view that I had was like this, and it seemed to me that it was going to fly into the hill. So I was desperately operating the left joystick forward in the hope of raising the altitude, but what I forgot was that to override a Litchi mission you have to move out of program mode into sport mode, and I didn't do that, so my joystick activity had no effect. You can see here the Mavic has overtaken the Phantom because it happens to be flying 2 meters higher, even though it's flying the same mission. And the Phantom is being slowed down by its obstacle avoidance or obstacle detection software. I thought I was going to hit this fence, but we just managed to graze over it. And then we gave these rabbits a bit of a shock. And we're still uncomfortably low. But it's absolutely fine unless we have to get over a hedge. Like, for example, this one. Obstacle avoidance comes into play, but not quite enough. So I think we just got tangled up there, but the Phantom, with its 3 gyros and 3 accelerometers and its compass and its barometric pressure sensor, managed to recover and get out of that tree, which I thought was pretty good of it. But it put itself in a bit of a spin for a while. It took some time to actually work out what it was supposed to be doing after that close encounter with the hedge. Eventually it got back on track, and here's another hedge that we have to get over. Luckily we can just manage this. Obstacle avoidance is slowing it, as you can see, and now we're okay, and we continue the rest of the mission without trouble. So we thought, well, the Mavic video will show us what went wrong, but unfortunately it didn't, because we'd launched it from a rough farmer's field, and there was a speck of dust on the Mavic lens which caused it to focus right up close, so everything was out of focus. So we got no information from that. I was a bit alarmed by this experience, so when I got home I made an accurate plot of the ground altitude seen here in blue and the aircraft altitude seen in orange, and what it shows is that I'd failed to take sufficient account of the concave nature of the hill here, and that the aircraft was definitely flying below the top of the hedge for the first hedge that it went through. So clearly we need to tweak the mission a bit. So we met again 2 months later, and in the meantime Dick, having realised that my missions are not to be trusted, had edited my mission slightly. He put additional waypoints in here on the steeply sloping hill, and an additional waypoint in the middle of this hedge, and raised the altitude slightly. So we tried again. This time I'm showing the Mavic footage following the Phantom, perhaps not as closely as we should have done. But this time, at any rate, the Mavic remained behind the Phantom because the Phantom was sufficiently far off the ground not to be slowed down by its obstacle avoidance software. Phantom's just passing the second hedge at the moment. Because of the additional waypoints, it climbs up this hill okay this time, and is noticeably higher going over that fence. We still seem to be quite low here. We're making for the same hedge as before. Luckily there's a slight dip in it, and it just clears it through the dip. Still going at amazingly low altitude, and you can see how much higher the Phantom is. Sorry, the Mavic is. And so the mission continues without incident to the end.
So that was successful in the end, but the interesting thing about it was that at all times my Phantom was flying at least 2 meters lower than Dick's Mavic, even though they were both executing the same mission. I think that these drones primarily determine their altitude by means of the barometric pressure sensor, which they set the altitude to 0 when they take off, and the GPS altitude is not very accurate, so they use the barometric pressure sensor, and it seems that there's a 2 meter difference in the calibration of those sensors between my Phantom and Dick's Mavic. But as far as I can see, there's no way of adjusting that in any of the calibration arrangements, so we just have to live with it. But we did find that at the end of the mission, when both drones supposedly halted at exactly the same spot in space, my Phantom was considerably lower than Dick's Mavic. So that explains why the Mavic was unscathed by the trees, and the Phantom had a little bit of trouble. Anyway, thanks for watching.
I'll leave you with a mistake which I made today. These are 132 kilovolt SSE electricity lines which feed power to the city of Winchester and its surroundings from the National Grid substations at Nursling and Fleet. I was intending to fly over these lines with good clearance, but somehow it didn't quite work out that way. The impressive thing, though, is that the DJI sensors were unaffected by the strong electromagnetic fields from the electricity lines. I should add, of course, don't try this at home, don't try it anywhere. It's a bad mistake.